secret ballot, was it?
I might take the nerve off and have my glasses on. If I take the nerve on, it'd be yes.
Funny.
I'll put the glasses on, it might help.
So, moving to the agenda, item 2, can I nominate Cherry? And we move to election of vice chair. I believe you've already voted.
Yeah.
You've been the returning officer for the said constituency on SACRE.
Yeah, I can confirm that Cherry is appointed as the.
And if I could be chair, I'd be very grateful. So if I could be chair, vice chair, thank you.
Vice chair.
Yes, please. Thank you. I know I haven't got.
Oh, thank you very much. Moving to item 3, could I invite the very Reverend Sean Wade to lead us in our reflections? Thank you.
Of course. So I've been given 2 minutes notice. Reflection. So I'll just share something that I preached about a few weeks ago. I've been spending a lot of time talking to our, we have a wide community team who work very much on the front line with aspects of poverty and food and clothing and babies' baskets, and a lot of people that are very much on the front line. And we've come into this new academic year all feeling a little weary, if we're honest. Do we get that feeling of weariness, and you think, oh no, we're meant to be fresh and into the, and then suddenly you think, oh, where's the oomph? And so as we've been kind of talking a little bit, we were looking at, there's a passage in Matthew 11 where Jesus says, I knew she was just about to come in to share a reflection. I'm now in the middle of the reflection that you should.
I couldn't find anywhere to park.
Right, I'll let you get your breath back. In Matthew 11, where Jesus says, come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and humble in heart, and you will find rest for your souls. My yoke is easy and my burden is light. And as I was reflecting on that in my own life, in my own kind of sense of weariness, that sense of thinking about what a yoke over 2 oxen would have been. So when Jesus is talking about that, he's thinking about how they used to kind of harvest, and the big piece of wood going over the 2 oxen. And I love when you look through the history, and actually what they would do is they put a very inexperienced ox next to a very experienced ox. So you can imagine the inexperienced one is probably leaping about and trying to kind of do it in their own way, but actually being tethered to the experienced ox. And it's that sense of they would lead the way, they would show this, and actually it'd be a stronger ox, so probably carry more of the load. And so we just had this conversation really as a community team around the fact that we were built to do life in community and not to be on your own doing anything. And when you are a little bit kind of a sense of, okay, it's just me and my own thoughts at the end of a day and struggling with things, knowing that there's that community to pull the load with you, and whether there's, obviously we have a faith in Jesus, but whatever your faith or your sense of actually I can rest in that or lean on that aspect of my belief system, it's really powerful. And we had a conversation on the platform with the person who set up the Nightlight Cafe, Stacey, and we had a really raw and honest conversation about the fact that we were made to walk in community with each other. We need to share that burden with each other and find people who we can talk to about unloading some of the things that we pick up, because I think in all of our roles we pick up things throughout the day that we absorb. So that sense of we're built to do things in community, and the sense that actually as we pull the load together, there is that sense of we can do this, and not becoming overwhelmed with the big picture. I had a little pop into the Hope for Justice offices in the centre of Manchester last week. And if you don't know about Hope for Justice, they have literally seen thousands of people come out of modern day slavery. And they've got this beautiful wall with a padlock of everybody's name on that they've set free from modern day slavery. So you look at this wall and you go, wow. And then you realise actually there's now more slaves in the world than there ever has been. And you can get overwhelmed, can't you, by the need? Or you can look at those padlocks and go, isn't that beautiful that that person got set free? Isn't it wonderful that that person got set free? So I guess it's that perspective, that sense of having a perspective on what you're doing is the right thing to do, but also doing it in community and pulling the load together is a really, really powerful analogy. So there we are.
Sorry, Lindsay.
No, please accept my apologies. I've raced back from Louth, which was a slow journey, and there was just nowhere to park. So thank you, Charlotte. The good news is you can do it next time. I'll do it next time. Yeah, because I was supposed to do it in the summer and I wasn't well, so I'm very sorry. I just
It's okay.
But I can do it next
Can
time.
I follow up on Charles' reflection, by the way? I happens that I'm a governor of Bishop King, and I went with them to worship, their collective worship, which is at Charles Church. And I'd just like to say, you weren't there. I want to say that it was superb. I want to congratulate the church on its excellent work with the local school. So thank you. And okay, can I take apologies for absence, please?
Chairman, we have received apologies from Councillor Whittington, Claire Simons, Liz Moore, and Mark Clayton. And also just to note, apologies from Gillian Giorgio and Jill Chandler.
Thank you. Anything to add? Are we okay? Thanks, colleagues. Declarations of members' interests. I think this primarily applies to councillors, who I don't think they don't need me to tell them what a declaration of interest is.
Sorry, I am listening. I'm just trying to text Ashley. So
Thanks, Jackie.
not trying to be rude.
No problem at all. Thanks for doing that. That's really useful. So I will take it. There are no declarations. Minutes of the previous meeting, which you've all received. Even a good time. Thank you very much for that.
There were a couple of alterations, Chris, on
And there were indeed, yeah. Can you take some of them, Wendy, or is that? Or have you guys got them?
I think it was at pages 7 and 8.
Yeah.
You just want to know what about that.
it was page 8, the final paragraph on that page. The second line down where it starts science, there's just a row sentence in there. It should be somewhere else, I think.
Yeah,
That needs to be taken out.
That's been deleted, colleagues.
And the other one was previous page, I think.
I think it's page 7.
It's page 7.
That would have been deleted and just.
There's 2 representatives
Okay.
in the third paragraph up from the bottom, but it's been deleted.
That's it. They're just minor things. Just to prove that we're on the ball.
The silent sentence that was on
Yes.
page 8 actually was repeated again in Gillian's report. So we've just taken it out because it wasn't relevant to have there. That was all about RE, not silence.
Thank you. Any matters arising from the minutes, colleagues, that isn't on the agenda? No, thank you very much. I haven't received any correspondence. And moving to item 8, which is the action plan, which is going to be with Wendy and Kelly.
Just
Yeah.
right. Okay. I know everybody was asked if they would reflect on the action plan and come up with any suggestions. Wendy and I have had, and actually with Chris today as well, we've had a very long look again at the action plan, which we'd already streamlined, as you know, from the SACRE original one, although it was a brilliant idea to have it, that we should actually have our action plan. But our view is that we think we need to streamline it a little bit more, which we will do. But I wondered, has anybody got any specific, before I make the start, anybody got any specific reflections on it currently? Anything that you would like to bring up? Jackie, thank you.
And thank you for doing this. It's a very helpful plan, actually. It's very detailed. I just wondered, we're looking for improvements in the classroom, and I wonder how we measure the improvements caused or contributed to by SACRE as opposed to the teacher's own improvements, or are they completely intertwined? I just wonder how we measure the improvements. Because, I mean, a lot of children are actually very enthusiastic about RE further down the school, and then it sort of tails off, which is a shame. But I just wondered about that. I haven't got an answer, so I was just sort of raising it just for a thought, really.
Right,
Thank you.
okay.
How do we measure it? Is there a measurement?
Well, I know this is something that we actually discussed, isn't it, Wendy? And what we felt was that clearly we do have reports back from Wendy, statistical reports, figures, and then analysed. We do have reports back from Gillian and from the diocese because they also hold a great deal of information. But I think it's the case of finding time to fit that feedback. We have the overviews, and I think Lindsay and colleagues, you would agree with it. We do, if you like, have overviews. Gillian provides an overview, Wendy does, and other colleagues provide overviews. But I think it's specifically then what does SACRE do to move it forward, I think is something quite different. And I think when we discussed it today, because it did come up, so that's a brilliant thing to bring up, Jackie, is that we felt that to be able to do that as a SACRE, we needed more training. That if we were going to be a group that felt that we were going to help move that forward and have the influence to move that forward, we were going to need to know not just the facts and the figures, but actually how as a SACRE we would move that forward. So that's one of the things we said, that we would felt that we would need training. And just before I bring Wendy in, we thought as well, with regards to training on here, that many governing bodies these days are trying to have training actually at the beginning of governors' meetings to encourage more governors and not have more training sessions, etc. Lots of governing bodies are now having quite short training sessions at the beginning of either the full governors' meetings or the committee meeting, those cutting down. And that we thought that it would be actually a really good idea if you did to have that short training session at the beginning of our SACRE meetings, and therefore we could choose the training that we thought was important. And that would be one of the areas that we thought important. Could I have your thoughts on that, please? What do you...
Can we just come into Jackie's question?
Yes, of course, yes.
Jackie, I think if you'd asked that question, say 10 years ago, I would have said to you, it's very direct. But what happens is that I would have visited a number of schools during the term, and I would have written a detailed report on those schools with specific areas for improvement. And while I was in the school, I would have set a date to go back and see if those areas, I think that's what you're getting at, Polly, to see if those areas had been dealt with. Now, that involved quite a lot of paperwork. And then there was a change over time when we lost, for example, in those days, had an actual admin person to support me and help write those documents. And I was told, we don't want this detail anymore because there isn't the time to process it all. So I think things changed a little bit then, and it became a bit more ad hoc. So you'd visit a school and think, that was good, that wasn't so good, I'll try and go back there. But it wasn't quite so focused as it was. And I think over time, and I was working with the diocesan RE advisor then, who was a different person. I think over time, the emphasis of our work for both of us changed. And so it's not so tight as it was. We didn't see so many schools then, but the ones we did see, we were very focused on. And also we used to, I think, Chris, you'll probably remember this, often our starting point was Ofsted.
Yeah.
So we'd get an Ofsted analysis and it would say A, B, C, D schools are not doing very well in RE. But of course, what's happened since then is we haven't got that specific reference to RE to get us into the school. So if you said to me, how are you going to improve schools? I'd have to be honest with you and say I'm not 100% sure which schools need to improve because I've nowhere to start from in the way that I had a few years ago. That's not to say we don't do school visits because we do. But I think in answer to your question, the emphasis. That's lovely. Thank you so much.
That's good to ask you to contribute.
I wonder if certainly church schools, we might have a slightly stronger perspective.
Oh, definitely.
Because if they're part of our service level agreement, or even MAT schools that are part of our MAT partnership agreement, they get an annual visit from us. And one of those things that we do is discuss RE. So it gives us an overview of where they're at with RE. But I take your point with all the schools in Lincolnshire, but certainly church schools, the majority. So this year it will be 124 out of 142 will get an annual visit, and RE will be one area of focus.
Thank you ever
So
so
we
much.
can always report back on some of those because if that would be helpful. Is there any way we could get into dialogue with a very simple question that goes on to an annual return for the locality leads? Because if they're doing even the soft touch schools that are good or outstanding, they are at least doing an annual visit, normally 2/3 visits. If we could identify the appropriate wording that is sensitive enough to give us that foot in the door, or some hard information, that might give us a list that we can then prioritise over a period of time to actually give Wendy that opportunity to, you don't need any more work, do you?
When you finish the syllabus, we hope she'll be back doing it. Don't we?
Yeah, but the important thing is that it's A, it's accurate, B, it's time sensitive, and you would think, as we represent the county council, that somebody would want that overview. And if we're not asking for it, then who is?
Would it be possible to is anybody willing to set up a little action group, perhaps to look at that specifically?
I mean, I'm happy to work on it. I mean, I'm doing quite a bit of training now with the locality leads.
Yeah.
For all sorts of reasons, which you don't need to go into here.
Sure.
But wearing this hat, though, I am going into more schools now. I could virtually fill my diary.
Yeah.
Which is positive.
Time consuming.
Well, yes, but the other role, but the other role gives me insight because I'm in schools most days.
Yeah.
So we could develop those questions.
Yeah. But there don't need to be that many, but
No,
and the priorities do change as they do change annually for the information that obviously the local authority is wanting to harvest.
We have a set of questions around RE every year, so we can always provide those that we already use. They're not specific, they're about the curriculum, they're not specifically about it. So that's an area we could.
So is that possible that you could work together on that?
I can send them through. I can't.
Thank you.
Yeah,
I understand.
Through, but
That's your workload. All your workload is incredible. So that would be a very positive move forward, Jackie, and everybody. So thank you very much.
We need to find the right person to get that information to.
Yes.
In terms of that strategy team.
I think Jill Chamberlain might be the right
Might well be. Yeah.
That makes sense.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Any other reflections that you've come along with for that? Okay. Well, we've had as I say, Wendy and I are going to streamline this further for you, but just to say to you that in terms of holding meetings in various venues, we will continue to try to do that. We have had some invitations, so clearly we're going to try and do that, make sure that we do have meetings in different venues. Membership, we are trying to fill vacancies. I feel that Emily has been very good on that. She's trying very hard always. And I think having some feedback from people has been very important, hasn't it? For you to have contacts with various organisations, Emily, is that right?
Yeah, we don't have any vacancies at the moment, so we are
good. So that's a very good one. Okay. What we feel that we do need, though, is your ideas. We've just had an idea for training, but we do feel that we do need some more ideas now that if you do agree that we should have a short training session at the beginning of each SACRE, we would please like your ideas with regards to that training. So if you could come back with some ideas on that, please, we'd be very, very great. Okay. We've got the action plan. We just got to make sure that that it is effective in terms of us being able to action it. Very, very important. Relations, another one we thought was very important, relationships with academies, another non-local authority maintained schools. We are going to find a way of getting the message to head teachers of academies and teachers of academies that we feel they should be part of SACRE. Apparently, Emily says that we have to change. It is our constitution.
Yeah, we'd have to change our constitution slightly.
To enable this. Do you think that's a good idea? Because at the moment we can't have them as part of SACRE.
Yeah, we can have up to 4 members within the, I think it's committee C, which is our teachers.
Right.
And we only have 3 at the moment, so we have room to create an academy member. But I think a recommendation from SACRE would be appropriate, and then we can look to fill that role.
And we also wondered whether local authority colleagues and diocesan colleagues think it would be a good idea if somehow within conferences that SACRE had a mention and had a spot, even if it was a short one, so that people became more aware of SACRE, what SACRE does, how they can contribute to SACRE. So we hope that that will happen. Do you think that's a good idea?
Yeah, I mean, if there's not time to actually say something, we can certainly produce some materials that can go out in our packs at our conferences.
Right.
There may be some opportunities in some
Yeah.
conferences and training, but yeah, that's nice.
And can I just do one of the things that subtext to that was, should one of the pieces of training be a definition of our Lincolnshire SACRE, so that we all become ambassadors, but we're all saying the same thing. I'm not saying people don't know what SACRE is, but we've probably all got different perspectives on it, and we might want to create. Yeah, does that fit in? So that could be a piece of training, if you agree.
Okay. I think also we could perhaps put something certainly on the diocesan education website, a section that says what is SACRE, how does it link to the work we do, things, so we could develop something like that.
And would it be possible to make sure that that's part of what we offer for local authority as well? I think that's important, so that we then can see that we've got the evidence for that. The quality of teaching and learning, we provide SACRE with clear information about what constitutes good teaching and learning. Well, we feel that's definitely training. Okay.
Yeah.
So we're definitely going to include that in training. I thought that was very important. Review processes, we've got the agreed syllabus. We're going to be doing lots on the agreed syllabus. I'm not taking too much time. Enhance the quality provision of collective worship. More opportunities for SACRE members to visit schools and observe collective worship. Well, first of all, we felt that SACRE needed some training on the diversity of what one should expect to see within collective worship. So we feel that's a big priority. And then we hope that we're going to come up with ideas of how SACRE members, and I think probably most of us do anyway, but how SACRE members can actually go into schools to see collective worship. Because I think probably lots of us are involved with specific schools, although some members, of course, will go into lots of schools to do collective worship. But I think it would be very good for us to actually, as a group, to go to lots of different schools to be able to look at collective worship and how that happens in schools. Do you think that's a good idea, everybody? Okay.
Lots and lots.
Good. So I'm not doing any more because those are things that we highlighted. So I'm going to just cut it down a little bit, streamline it a little bit. We'll obviously make sure we keep the original copy here. But we would just like you to do one thing before our next meeting. If we streamline the action plan, and then we get it sent out to you again, we would like you to identify 3 areas that you think are very important that we need to address. And perhaps you might even have some ideas of how we would address them. and we would ask you, we'll give you a date, but obviously not till after Christmas. But we thought that that was a good idea to ask you to do that. So do you think it's a good idea? Excellent.
Okay, yeah,
So I think we've moved forward on the action plan today. And I actually think we've moved forward brilliantly on some areas. And I do feel as if we're going to move forward. So that I think the plan is actually going to become action. Because Nelson Mandela says, if you've got a plan, you've got to have action. So a development plan without action is just a dream. A development plan with action will change the world.
good quote.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you. Anything to add, Wendy?
No, just to say what we'll actually end up with is an archived version of the plan we've got at the moment, because some, as Jerry said, some of those things have already they've actually been done.
Yeah.
And then we'll have a new plan to put forward to you at the next meeting, which will make it simpler to put new actions in place with a timeline, I think, as well,
Yes.
and people involved and, the usual action plan.
Sorry, I couldn't remember the word archive, guys.
Yeah. So thank you very much, Wendy and Cherry, for that work. That's been it. And we've been involved. Okay. Moving to item 9, Ofsted. Wendy.
This was the last meeting.
It's the two.
Share it through Teams, Wendy, and then do it.
How do you like, as long as I know where
We'll be able to. Okay, wrap the
oh, that's all right.
you wrap the cable too, pardon.
That's the work. Why? This item is from should have been the last meeting, but we were a bit rushed, I think. I was just saying in the pre-meeting, I can't even begin to guess how many reports that I've summarised in these meetings, but it's a great many. And I always say at the beginning, it isn't really what's written in a report, because you could probably write what I'm about to summarise. It's what happens as a result of a report. And so often nothing happens. So we can only hope that what Ofsted's written in this report, which is really a follow-up to its research paper that it produced in 2021, has some significance for us. I mean, you will all be aware, unless you've been on another planet recently, that Ofsted's been in a lot of trouble lately, one way and another, not least for the way it's treated people, which is something which is fundamentally close to our hearts, really. I mean, we've always had this kind of, sort of been sing about Ofsted a bit, hasn't it? I mean, let's face it, if you're head of a school, and I've worked with lots of schools, and it's just in the language now, for them to say to me, oh, we're expecting the phone call any time. No one ever says what phone call. We know exactly what we mean. I mean, the phone call from Ofsted. And they never say, and you know what? We're really looking forward to it. Then they always say, no, I've got phone call. And their emphasis is on preparing their pupils and their staff for what's going to come. But, they never all gather in the staff room and have a party to celebrate the fact that Ofsted are coming. You have to ask yourself, I've been thinking about this a lot. Why is that? If this was a body that was designed to move schools forward and support them and improve them, why? Why did schools say, hooray, they're coming in? And we have to come to the conclusion, don't we, that some of it's been about occasionally Ofsted has managed itself, and also most of us don't like being under scrutiny particularly. So if somebody was in here now saying to me, I'm going to watch you do this and mark your performance out of 10, I wouldn't feel as relaxed as I do now. So I guess there's all those things bound up with Ofsted, but they've taken account of things that have gone wrong. So in the next meeting, you get another Ofsted input about where they are now. But while they've been trying to sort all this out, they did manage to come up with this report on RE. I don't really think any of it will surprise you that much. They decided that there were certain factors that contributed to better quality RE. Any guesses, anybody? What factors contribute to better quality RE?
There's no trainees in the county again this year.
Sorry, I didn't hear the first.
I think qualified teachers and there's no trainees in the
That's not
county.
a bad idea, is it? Qualifications, training. Another one?
Support of SLT.
Sorry?
Support of SLT.
Support of senior leadership team. Yeah, one more maybe. Oh, that'll do, won't it? Strong teacher subject knowledge. What do you say? What a
Quality syllabus.
But yes, that too. But the reason they've said this, of course, is because the opposite is true in a lot of schools. So they're not saying it just to be, it's obvious, isn't it? They're saying it because in many schools where they carried out their research for this report, that was not the case in primary and secondary schools, but more so in primary, which is what you'd really expect, because of course primary teachers got to teach so many different subjects. But it's also true in secondary schools that there are departments that are made up of many others. And I can remember many years ago being head of department in a very large secondary school in London. And the RE team was made up of one other RE specialist, the deputy head, who never came to any meetings because she was always busy doing something else, somebody else who taught in 3 other departments, so never ever prioritised RE when it was subject, department meetings. And bizarrely, a member of the P department. Maybe it sounded a bit similar, I don't know.
More common.
But, that was it. And somebody thinking, yeah, that's right. So that's the reason that's it. So when we had department meetings, you didn't know who was going to turn up. And some people knew what they were talking about and some people didn't have a clue. And that's linked to that, isn't it? That access to professional development and training. That if we do have teachers who are not subject specialists, then they do need the professional development, and we'll certainly be making sure that this is built into the new agreed syllabus. And regular time for RE lessons, especially, I think, in primary schools, but not just primary schools, where it's seen as being important. It's seen as, it's not pushed out because you've got all these other things to do. So do you know what? Let's take the kids out of, let's think, music and RE, and we'll just withdraw the children from those lessons. That often happens for extra support in primary schools. We've got to do extra maths or reading, that's all right, come out of RE or music or whatever. So regular time that all children participate in. And I suppose this is where we're up to date, or we should be soon, a well-organised curriculum containing knowledge chosen by leaders to enable pupils to deepen their understanding term by term. So a curriculum that has building blocks that start right from nursery reception, and you can see the progression and the coherence going through the whole thing. So I'm glad with it. I was pretty pleased when some of this came out, actually, in terms of where we're thinking about our syllabus. So what they found was a lack of sufficient substance to prepare pupils to live in a complex world. So in other words, they found that a lot of curriculums for RE lacked depth, and they were just very limited in their scope. So they taught pupils, for example, about the key aspects of religions, but perhaps not much else, not about the broader picture and the context, what it means for individuals to belong to a religion or worldview and so on. And a lack of a depth of knowledge. I do take I'm a bit worried about this one because it can be read in a different way. Depth of knowledge, for example, too many religions covered. It's perfectly possible to cover numerous religions during 1 year. That's perfectly okay, in my view, as long as pupils are aware of the concepts that pull them together. You may well want to give examples from 4 or 5 religions during year 3 or whatever, if it's clear how they're held together. So that's slightly misleading, but I know what they mean. They mean that people try to do everything. In year one, they thought, better just cover every religion in year one, rather than, the expense of
I'm really surprised when I saw that one as well, because our experience of going to Ofsted feedbacks is they're saying, what, you're not teaching enough religions, because locally we teach the three in the locally agreed syllabus, and we were having to really, as a diocese and head teachers, push back to some of the Ofsted inspectors because they're still expecting you teach the big six and that's it.
Yeah.
And so we were really surprised that came out, because that's not the experience. We're having to push back against Ofsted inspectors for the opposite.
Yeah, I think they need to get their thinking sorted out.
They're not reading. Ofsted inspectors are not reading the reports, are they? No. They're not trained in RE.
No, they're not. And we're actually moving away from the doing one plus one other religion. Because we're saying, look, let's take account of a number of worldviews and religions and see how they're held together. What do they have in common? And by all means, look at those during 1 year. But it's how it's taught. But you're quite right. I mean, you read one bit from Ofsted and you get one.
Doesn't match up with our experience.
That's the question we should be asking is, we know that teachers need more training, professional training, but we should actually have evidence that Ofsted inspectors have training. And I think that we should have evidence of it. So I think that's perhaps one of the things that this SACRE can ask.
I think that's
could we please see evidence that Ofsted inspectors are being trained in RE to be able to inspect?
You could.
Yes, you're absolutely right. So that's one of the main finding, was that pupils were not able to systematically build disciplinary or personal knowledge. Well, disciplinary knowledge refers to the kind of how pupils learn, and by which through the different disciplines of, for example, theology, philosophy, sociology, music, art, and so on. It's how pupils use those disciplines to help them understand RE, and this gets more sophisticated as the pupils get older. Just as an aside, that most definitely is built into our new syllabus. And the personal knowledge, or the reflective bit, where the pupils ask questions, how does this apply to me? What does it make me think about? I suppose it's a little bit like the old learning from religions, not quite the same, but similar. So that's an important aspect of RE, I think. It's not just learning a load of information, and reflecting on it and thinking about the implications for yourself. I'm getting too excited then. And some secondary curriculums driven by examination requirements. Well, yes, they are, because of the reasons that we know. They're driven because the school is saying you've got to get the results. So of course they're driven. And much non-examination RE is of poor quality. So that needs a bit of unpicking, I think. But I think what it's trying to say is that they're completely driven by examination requirements and thinking about very little else. And non-examination RE, particularly in Key Stage 4, is either non-existent or it's not very good quality. And I do think that is something we need to take account of big time in the new syllabus. Because in a lot of schools, if they're not doing RE at examination level, the kids aren't doing anything. And there are schools that aren't running non-examination courses for Key Stage 4. I don't know, Jenny, what would your take be on the first bit of that, driven by examination requirements? Because it's like, yes, but, isn't it?
It's really tricky. I was just thinking, and I've just had a meeting with our interim head teacher, because we get an hour a week to do a GCSE, and we get the same level 9s to 4s as English on 4 hours a week.
Oh,
So I mean, I wanted that limiting, isn't it? Kind of miracle, but so I am, I start in year 9, and I'm following the agreed syllabus, but marrying it up with where the examination syllabus goes, because I'm under pressure. But we definitely make sure the kids get that reflection on their worldview, because actually that gets them buy-in. If they can see the relevance of how does this fit with me, then you get better results. But and actually, I think that everyone should be examined, because then you don't get that poor quality that's some examined group. So all of our students, apart from, I think last year, one student, we did AQA do a unit award scheme. So they follow the same syllabus and they get beautiful certificates all the way through, but they just produce a little portfolio of work, because they can't physically sit an exam. So everybody is recognised, but it's kind of, what do you want me to do on an hour a week?
Exactly.
And you're going to hold me accountable for these results. So yes, I do a bit of that, but I can't get around it.
So that's another one that's a bit strange, really. Knowledge of traditions of all religions, sometimes oversimplified. Well, again, that goes back to the lack of subject knowledge. And also, I think it may be to do with the style of teaching. So sometimes where teachers were doing a sort of, let's do Christianity, let's do Islam, let's do Hinduism, or whatever, it was reduced to a list of things about that subject. Inevitably, sacred books, place of worship, festivals and things like that. And that was it. There was nothing about deeper sort of diversity in the sense of, oh, but hang on a minute, not all Hindus do that. Not all Muslims look like that. Not all Jewish people believe that.
A lack of depth.
Yeah, and a real understanding of diversity within a religion, not just.
And isn't that so important for people to understand? I mean, a lot of the problems we're seeing around the world at the moment is based on an ignorant view of Islam or an ignorant view of Jewishness. And
Yes, exactly. So that oversimplification, we need to get away. And although it's hard for children, it's hard for us to understand it. To get children and students to understand that within any religion, it's quite complex, and to build that in right from reception in year one, that things are complicated. And as if that wasn't complicated enough, but increasingly we have people who belong to more than one religion. So they might have parents who are of different religions or traditions, or as adults, they might say identify as being Christian, but also identify with aspects of, say, Buddhism. So that sort of blended approach to religion and beliefs is important too. I mean, as you talk about it, it feels more exciting to teach it that way, doesn't it? And I think that's something we have to think in mind bear in mind with our new syllabus. People's not unable to make sense of traditions around the world. So that means a kind of global thing as well. So sometimes pupils grow up thinking that everything's like it is in Lincoln, Leicester or Nottingham or Newcastle or wherever. This is my world. And that very English view or traditional, very white view of Christianity that's prevalent in many sort of paintings and images that children see. So it's important for them to see, for example, lots of images if they're studying Jesus. What does Jesus look like in images across the world, globally and so on? Because really, if you look at old Christmas cards and nativity scenes or paintings, it's pretty clear that Jesus was born in the home counties, isn't it? And
blue eyes.
Sorry.
Blonde and blue eyes.
That's what I thought. So children sometimes see other pictures and go, oh, really? And then it's pointed out that, historically, the historical context and the cultural context of religions is really, really important. And I know, I don't know if it's RE today that's driven it, or Lindsay will be able to pull me up on this. I think there was something going on in London the other week about global Christianity.
Yeah,
sorry, but there's any details.
Yeah, there's a new resource come out that is I guess follows in the wake of Understanding Christianity.
Yeah.
That is called it's a Christianity, a global resource that has been actually driven by the National Church of England as well as and Gillian has been an advisor on that. So that is almost ready to come out. So it was launched last.
Good news for us. That good timing for us.
Really good timing. Yeah. So I think that was the launch, but then there's been some issues, so they've just taken it back. But it will be out soon, and there's some free training to do before you can use it. But Gillian's really excited about it, so she was an advisor on it, so it should be good quality.
What's the level, Lindsay?
I think it's. You're asking me. I think it's just global Christianity. Global Christianity. I will check because I know Gillian wrote about it this week, and I've got a copy.
But again, when you think of the complexity that we're expecting children to understand, because a Christian church in this country could be, if it was a tiny village parish church, it could be all white people. And
And where I live in Leicester, we have churches that are totally black congregation. And so it's diversity of different levels that we have. We have looked at like in stage 4, pupils will begin to understand. You know, live, you'd expect that to not be featuring heavily, but you can still use language like not everyone thinks the same. It's that language. Sorry, Jackie.
Sorry, no, sorry for interrupting. To be absolutely honest, I think these comments from Ofsted are seriously unrealistic. And personally, I feel that every Ofsted inspector should be teaching year 11 RE on I really do believe they should be made to teach. If they are inspecting, then they need to remember what it is. These are, of course, things that are oversimplified. Yes. How else are they going to be? All we're doing on an hour a week is giving a taster. You can't really do any more. You can try and give a feel. You can use the music. You can try and teach things like tolerance and fundamentals. But then I was thinking when Chris said it, they're being faced at the moment with the sheer unmitigated hate between the religions, with everybody killing everybody else. That's the example that they're being faced with at the moment. And of course, they don't understand each other's culture because that involves clothing, it involves food, it involves relationships with parents in a different way. It is hugely complex that most adults don't understand. And yet we're saying that we want our children to do this on an hour a week. With regard to teaching to the exam, one thing I always found very useful was actually to start with the exam. So we would take an examination question and I would give the answer and we'd discuss why the question was asked and build around the answer and get them to look into things beyond the answer. So they were learning examination technique, but they were doing their own research as well. But I mean, this is, I really think Ofsted needs to bless their cotton socks. They need to give their collective heads a wobble because this is not realistic. Get them into schools, get them teaching. It's time for them to come in and say, show us. Don't tell us, show us. And let the RE teachers sit back and say, oh, yes. Yeah. But, don't you think, I mean, what you've got here on how are they supposed to do this in an hour a week? So
I do like the idea of Ofsted being asked to do it. In my case, it would have been, looking back, it would have been my Monday afternoon non-examination, stage 4 group who swore in not a very nice way at the first mention of getting your books out. And some of you won't know what I'm talking about, but some of you know exactly what I'm talking about. Would you get your books out, please? To be met with such resistance as if you'd asked them to grow another head. And some of you know exactly what that's like. Yeah. Well, I'm not doing this. This is before we've even started trying to teach the complexities of global Christianity.
Sorry.
I've got the details if people want them.
That's fine. You'll
So
take that.
it's
yes.
I can just say it was Christianity as a Global World Faith. That's what it's called. They've been produced by the Church of England Education Office as part of the church's response to From Lament to Action, which was a document produced that was research done around the history of the Church of England and diversity. And it's no good just saying we've done things wrong in the past. There has to be action about that. It's led by Alicia Lara, who is the National Education Lead for Racial Justice, and a team of writers, including those, and I think this is the important bit, from a global majority heritage background. So it wasn't written by a bunch of white people, so it's the materials include voices and stories that have been minoritized and marginalized. Engaging with them will enable schools to use it as a space that can contribute towards a more inclusive and diverse learning environment, and it contributes to substantive and disciplinary knowledge in RE. So it'll be coming out soon. So watch this space.
Can I also say that I think that schools as a whole need to reflect this diversity, and I'm sure they do reflect all diversity within their schools, how they live their lives together. Obviously, the way children are educated, but how they live their lives together, and to make diversity a very important part of what happens in their school families. I think it's hugely important. And I can remember back when I was in North Yorkshire so many years ago, that North Yorkshire was a bit like Lincolnshire in terms of what we've just been talking about. in actual fact, what happened was that the RE advisor for the local authority, we then had a partnership with Birmingham. So the teachers within North Yorkshire, many of them, we did training with teachers in Birmingham. We visited them, they visited us. We managed to bring incredible diversity into our schools by going out and seeking it and searching for it and making it part of what we were doing. It was far easier for me when I was in London. I was in Lambeth. And so we lived every day, part of our lives, celebrating our diversity, our family, bringing in all our different cultures, all our different faiths into our school. And actually, Ofsted recognised it when they came. But I think it's important as well that we take it beyond just RE, take it beyond whatever, that our school should be encouraged to make sure that this is a living part of our schools and our cultures within our schools.
Thanks, Chair.
Sorry, everybody, boring.
Okay, no, it's not boring.
Okay. I was just going to say that difficulty within the 1 hour, and some of you know, particularly with older pupils, that's when you've got past the initial barrier of why are we doing this anyway, miss, attitude to RE that isn't prevalent in other subjects quite the same way.
Well, build on the 11 years they've had, build on the time that they've had before. So secondary schools need to take a long, hard look. What's happened in those primary school years, nursery primary school years? How are we going to build on what those young people have come from primary school with?
Into secondary school.
Into secondary school, yeah.
Wendy.
So next point I do agree with. Assessment does not show what pupils know and or remember over time. Because I have found that particularly in primary schools, RE is often not assessed at all, or it's not assessed very well. And I'll be perfectly honest with you and say that in our new syllabus, I'm speaking for primary initially here, I'm intending to take a fairly simple approach to it, because I think such a lot has been written about assessment that teachers look at and they just think, what? I don't understand a word of it. There's that. And then there's a bit about a lot of analysis about what children have done in their RE work. Some have done quite well, some have done not so well, some have done whatever. And then you say to the teacher, so what's going to happen to this assessment you've got? Oh, nothing. Oh, we really don't know. So the key thing for me about assessment is it's very simple, actually. Assessment is about what they know and can remember. That's the first thing. The second thing is you've taught it. Have they got it? It is so important to talk about formative and summative assessment, where formative is the ongoing stuff and summative is when you think, I've taught this whole term's worth of work, let's have a go and see if they've got it. I'll set them tasks to see. It does not have to be complex. I've seen syllabuses that have got pages and pages of pupils should be able to, oh, come on, we have to stop this and just get to the nitty gritty and understand what they can do and what they are unable to do so that we can address that bit. So they couldn't do that. Therefore, we've got to check again, make sure they can do it. All will be made clear when the syllabus gets to you later on this term. But I do think we need to be clear about assessment, but we need to make sure they do it without burdening them too much. It's slightly different at secondary, though not so different at Key Stage 3. But assessment's been like this mystery, hasn't it? That, what do we do? What does it mean? It might just mean anything different to in other subjects, really. You've got to know whether children understand things, if they know things and remember them. So I do agree with that as well, doesn't it? How the children depends on how the assessment is formulated. Yeah. Because children need to actually understand what they're being asked and what the assessment is all about. And that it's not some isolated thing, that it's linked to the work that they've done. It's not just some sort of assessment, it's not a bolt-on thing. It's the curriculum that shows progression, not assessment. It's the way you teach the curriculum that shows children make progress. If a curriculum's well designed, they'll make progress. From reception to year 6, say, or from year 7 to year 9, they'll make progress. Assessments, the checking. But it's not the be all and end all, and it's certainly not the sort of thing you add on just at the end. And we come back to insufficient CPD again and training. And go through this next bit more quickly, because these recommendations come on the back of this, so they're what you'd expect. So they're saying schools should ensure there's a rigorous curriculum in place at all key stages and should be rigorous and challenging. Schools should carefully select the knowledge they expect pupils to learn, that is, identify and sequence important content and concepts. Well, I think we should be doing this for schools so that they can get on with teaching it. Balance the study of religious and non-religious traditions, very much so. So our new syllabus will be called Study of Religion and Worldviews, and worldviews will include non-religious worldviews, not to mention other religions aside from the big hitters, you know, the big 5 or 6. I've learned a lot myself in researching RE, including from groups that I didn't know much about to begin with. And it's interesting to put those in the curriculum, so there's breadth. So, for example, I've had much more in-depth conversations with Buddhists than previously, with Baha'i, pagans, who informed me they were far more in Leicester than I had ever imagined. And it was just a fascinating conversation, probably even more so in Lincolnshire. And embracing those different worldviews and faiths, because these are things that people believe and should be included. Ensure that pupils deepen their knowledge over time by building blocks, building up knowledge and concepts, and identify how disciplinary and personal knowledge will be developed. Yes, well, we take all that. So they're the main things from this report. I'll say 2 things to close. One is there is not one thing in there which surprised you. And if I'd said to you, we've got 2 hours to write a report on RE, we've got to say what things aren't done very well, what things we think should be done better and recommend, we'd have come up with similar, probably more realistic things, going back to some of your points, but we'd have come up with similar things. So there's nothing that makes you go, my God, well, I never thought of that. And we don't know whether this will have any effect. But what was quite good, really heartwarming for me, was I was going through it and mentally ticking off things that would be included in our new syllabus. And I'm glad to say that, yeah, you know, we're well placed. If Ofsted were to say, oh, does your curriculum meet these things? We would say, yes, it does. So that's the latest. I don't know how long it will be till there's another report, but we're feeding back on, who knows. But that's the latest offering from Ofsted. And I shall go home tonight with the idea, Jackie, of inspectors standing in front of the real yobby, you know, the one that no one wants. And yeah, you stand in front of them for an hour and a half and see how you get on. And then we'll listen to you, because exactly what you're saying. Because if you do it really well, I'm going to listen to you. Yeah.
But Friday afternoon, year 11, that's the
We were advisors in classrooms. Yes, advisors used to do that.
Yeah,
advisors
they did.
I did think, indeed. People used to say to me, well, show me then. I say, all right.
Did you want to speak?
Yeah, I just want to say on the back of that, the DFE has put out 2 new videos on worldview approach, which covers their new handbook, and a short guide to religion and worldview approach. So that's quite bite-sized. But for me, what is more important, and I don't know if it's how we get a say in it, or do we just want to get the message out that the DFE is just about to do an evaluation on RE, and it is a click and a form to fill in. And the RE Council is trying to identify the core evidence across schools. So it's just England.
Is this separate to the curriculum review?
This is the curriculum assessment review,
yeah,
and then the RE review.
Oh, 2 separate things.
Yeah, and the RE review is going to the RE board. And I just think it's important that either as a SACRE or individually, we ensure that it's there, because otherwise RE is totally diluted, as we well know. Yes, it's only RE, we can take them out for the core subjects. So if we can get that message out through other avenues, and it comes from SACRE.
Who's heading up the RE review?
Oh, I don't know.
Okay, I'm sure we can find out.
We can find that.
Something I'd be quite interested to
I'm going to go to a webinar. If I get that information, I'll whiz it across. Yeah. Yeah. But it is important, and that capturing the world view, it just demonstrates that we most clearly are at that cutting edge, the way that we're endeavouring to take it forward for Lincolnshire.
She just worried that another review is going to come out when they're sitting there in 6 months' time saying this is the review Amanda was talking about, and it's going to say exactly, well, more or less the same.
I know.
And you just think, well, why are you doing a review? What do you want? We've already got this review. What? It just doesn't make sense, really, does it? I mean, the whole curriculum review makes sense.
Don't start me on that one.
No, well, I know.
Look at the time, colleagues.
Yeah, sorry,
Go to
we're
the
done.
debate. Thanks very much, Wendy. Thanks for any further points I have to say. Thank you. Can I move to the work programme? We've got one date change, I think. Which we'll put out with the work programme. Was it in March?
Yeah, we've got
2025. Yeah, and we'll do it on future meeting dates. That's my fault. Sorry about that. Any future work in the work programme?
Got the action plan, haven't we?
Yeah, we need to come back with the action plan and look at that.
I'll do it from there. Is that okay?
We'll do that next time.
Thank you. Can I ask for a volunteer for reflections at the next meeting?
I'll try again.
Yeah.
Sorry, Liz, I didn't mean to.
No, absolutely fine. I was, yes.
We'll do our best to make cards or.
Yes, well, I'll try not being loud before.
Yeah, I was going to get in from Loud.
That's
And the work programme, we had quite a few things, didn't we, that will come out in the minutes as well.
Yeah.
I think that, so that's great. Okay.
Thank you. Future meeting dates. Next meeting, 12th of November. Could I mention, by the way, I went to the mosque open day last week. In fact, all councillors on the city council were almost a 3-line whip to go, which I think is quite right too. And Tanweer, who's a leading part of that, separately has contacted me to say that he would particularly like SACRE to meet at the mosque.
Yeah, I've been there before, that'd be good.
Yeah.
I think that was my first meeting.
Yes, it was.
Yeah, it was. Yeah. Yeah. So if people are agreeable, then we'll come up with a date.
Could we possibly,
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure we will, could we have the postcode and will there be parking? I think there was. There wasn't there. We could just have the post.
Is that the next meeting on the 12th?
We'll
So I need to fault it, but I'm sure we'll get information.
Yeah.
See what the
Well,
mosque
yeah.
says if we, yeah. Are you guys okay to put that
Oh,
down?
right.
yeah, we'll have a look at some dates.
Is that okay? Yeah.
Sorry, can I just check? Are you thinking of having the meeting in the mosque?
We're thinking of it. Yeah.
Could I just check then? Could you let us know if there's any dress code, please?
Yeah. Yeah. They've in the past they've been quite casual
Oh, okay.
with us.
Just take
They-
our views off it.
But we have to take us to that shop.
I will.
Yeah, I would, yeah.
I just want to.
Yes.
You just want to scarf.
But it's just, it's personal choice.
This is if you're a guy, this is where you check all those socks with holes in them and you throw them out in advance.
Shoot, right.
Yeah. And just broadly on that point as well, you might want to know that during what we started to call the Troubles, in Lincoln, quite a few people went and stood in front of the mosque, including the new MP. But councillors, Conservative, Lib Dem, Labour, people across the community all went and stood outside the mosque in Lincoln. There was no trouble in Lincoln, but it was just so impressed that the local community reacted in that way. Yeah, anyway, I mustn't digress. So I think that takes us to sitting as the agreed
Sorry, Chairman, just
Stop me, yes.
just on the future meeting dates, we have got the 11th of March down, but we are proposing to change that to the 25th of
Thank
February.
you. Yeah,
And but I'll send them dates round and appointments and things next week.
that's in 2025, so next week.
Questions, that
Yeah.
half term?
Is it half term?
Which, sorry.
You didn't say that, Charlie.
Is it the week after?
Is that week half
Which
term?
date?
No, it's the
25th of February.
People saying that was half
No,
term.
no, Easter's late anyway, but yeah.
Okay, yeah.
That one.
I'm a bit confused why the next meeting's in a month's time. Why?
Because we had extra stuff to fit in and we've got
Oh,
to in this term.
Right, gotcha.
Is that okay, colleagues? Thanks very much for that. So now we move on and we become that new body sitting as the agreed syllabus conference.
Don't be worried, alarmed. I'm going to be very quick on this. I haven't much to add since the last meeting, mainly because we have a meeting of the primary advisory group tomorrow. And I'm sure you're pleased to know that this is in person. We've already had an online meeting and there are 30 people coming, which is just incredible to get that amount of people out of school in the morning as well. And so meeting in the school tomorrow morning to map out where we go. I just shared with colleagues before that I have now completed the Leicester agreed syllabus, which won't look like this does in its folder, but you'll see it's a very comprehensive document.
Really, dreadful. Yeah.
I'm going to, it's in the middle of being printed at the moment, you know, sort of spiral bound sort of thing. So that in the next meeting, each committee will have a copy of it to look at because it forms the basis of our Lincolnshire one. It's not the same, but it forms the basis, but you'll get an idea of it. Should add the design is to be worked out separately with the county council because that was paid for separately, but we'll talk about that. But I want you to have a look at it because I want you to note the detail and see what it looks like when you've got time to discuss it. So that will be at the next meeting when I'll also be bringing back the findings from tomorrow's meeting and first consultations with secondary as well. So lots going to happen this term. I would finish on this point, and as we just had a smile back there, I think we are quite modest most of the time as teachers and so on, but I'm going to show up a bit now. I've sent a decent sample to teachers here will probably know Mary Myatt. He's like one of my heroines because Mary Myatt, if you Google Mary Myatt, she's an author, a writer, a speaker, but more than that, she was originally an RE specialist, which is how I came to be friends with her because we were RE advisors together. And now she's famous and I'm not. But anyway, that's I don't mess with Mary over that. But I do respect her up here. She's the only person whose education books I've read from cover to cover because they're so readable. Anyway, I sent her some of this because I thought, I'm on the right track. I don't know. You know, sometimes you write things, you think, I think it's all right, but maybe I'm going mad. I don't know. And I'd just like to share this with you as an endorsement because it's just occasionally nice, isn't it? Let's face it. She says, this was terrific. And the overarching questions are brilliant. Really robust in terms of getting to the heart of the matter. Big contrast to some of the waffle in many curriculums. I won't draw on that anywhere else. And here's a nice thing for us because, you know, if this is converted into Lincolnshire, let me know when it's published and what you decide to do. I can repost anything you want on social media and include it in my monthly update. Now, if you're not in it, know her name, you won't quite appreciate. When I read it, I was like, that's fantastic. If Mary Myatt puts it out, you know, that's it really. So that's a really nice endorsement. Another couple of really lovely ones from Ariac as well. So I'm saying that to you, not to show off. Well, yeah, I am showing off, but no, I'm saying it really because I wanted you to know that other people have seen this and they like it. And, you know, I think that's important. So
well done.
That's very encouraging. Yes.
It's very encouraging for us, but it's right at the start really of, you know, changing this into something that we want. No intention of just lifting this and saying that's it, as some companies do. And you will find companies who will just lift this off the shelf and say, have that for Lincoln. We'll just put Lincolnshire on the front. No, we're not going to do that. And we'll see what the teachers come up with tomorrow. and then feed back to you and give you a version of this to look at in the next meeting. So that's just to assure you that things are moving on quite fast and all good.
Thank you very much, Wendy.
Sorry.
Just to say as well that when you do actually see it, it's actually beautifully presented.
It is.
But one thing we need to be made aware of at the next meeting, which Wendy will, is that actually to present it in that way, coloured, beautifully filed, lovely pictures, etc., is an additional cost. And therefore, I pointed out that Lincolnshire need to be aware exactly what that additional cost would be to actually produce it as it is.
That's the question. Do you mean the design of it?
Yes.
Not the printing of it. I
No,
presume it's
still
going to be
the-
online.
it
Yeah,
will go-
that's what I wanted to check.
The design.
Yeah, that's
Yeah, the design of it. So that's something that we can talk about at the next meeting.
I can
And
get
that's Wendy to get quotes on that. So
Yeah.
thank you.
Wendy, when are you meeting with secondary teachers?
I'm just in the process of finally updating the list of subject leaders. I think you replied to me last week. But by the end of this week, I'm going to send out to everybody, even if I haven't got all the names. And we'll first have an online meeting. So that'll be in the next 2 weeks. I want to do the primary first just to see where they were in it, to get some sort of foundation. Because it may well be the secondary in this bit is entirely different in its format to primary, as you'd probably expect. And that might or might not suit Lincolnshire. I have a feeling we might want to make a few changes. But the other reason I'm doing a lot of thinking about secondary is that nearly every school is an academy. So that kind of, we need to talk about that as a group, don't we? And think, well, what does that mean we put out for guidance if the schools are already doing things that they're quite happy with? Not to put too fine a point on it, but I think we need to be honest in the group about that. Because we don't want to write reams and reams of stuff, and then all the secondaries go, well, it's lovely, but we're using our own stuff anyway. I think we need a lot of thinking. So yeah, next couple of weeks. It's the same pattern, first online, and then before Christmas, a meeting face to face.
Lindsay.
Wendy, I know it's loads and loads of work. Do you feel you're on track? Because obviously we've got schools that are asking. Do you feel
the contracted deadline is the end of March?
it's just, I'm just thinking about messaging out to schools because we're already being asked. Right. I just know how much work.
I have to believe that.
I know. And that's not about that you're not working. I'm not saying that at all. I just wondered where you were up to on timeframes really, and if that's going as you've planned.
I think I'll have a lot more after tomorrow.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the only nightmare no, actually, there is no nightmare because tomorrow, it's not as if I've not put it to primary schools. We've got a blank page. Would you like to look at this and see if you like it? We said, what I was contracted to do was to use the syllabus that's already written,
Yes.
and adapt it.
Yes.
So in that sense, that was hard. I mean, that's taken the best part of 18 months to write. So no, that it's the adapting I've got to work on, but that's nowhere near as, excuse me, that's nowhere near as tiring as.
It's actually great to have a secondary impact as well.
Oh, definitely, most definitely. But I think it's quite a long term, and I've sort of pushed other things out the way to do it. So if you work full on something, you get on with it pretty quickly. Really.
That's Wendy. Thank you, colleagues. I'm noting that it's 15:22. We promised to finish by 15:30. So minutes if there's anything. Sorry, we can pull that down.
If anyone wants to have a quick look, I mean, you're
It's really
absolutely
worth it.
welcome to have a quick
We
look.
looked at it, didn't we? And I loved your quote. Thank you, colleagues. Thanks very much for your attendance and the enthusiasm and vote. Great.